Hello, Garland Nixon here, and we're going to talk about day two. Seems like it's Israeli infrastructure is taking much more of a beating than the Trump administration had anticipated. Donald Trump seems to be getting cold feet. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here, and a number of things are going on. I would like to find Trump's Truth Social post, but I guess it's not all of that important. So let's start here. Donald Trump, and you'll notice I named this Trump's War. Here's the bottom line. The peace candidate, the peace president, the peace guy, all this kind of stuff. He put a hurt on himself. And, one of my predictions was, again, we don't know how this is going to end. We don't know what's going to happen. This is day two. This is so early. We don't know how things are going to go. But one of my predictions, if you look at one of my videos that I made just before the war started, and I asked the question, will Donald Trump, attack Israel, Iran, and basically wipe out, destroy his presidency? Now, as anything else, I would have to say that we have to define destroy his presidency, which I think I did pretty well in that video if you get a chance to go back and look at it. But what has happened is this, and old Mr. H has spoke the truth here. Trump is a neocon, right? He is, but he isn't. Your Mr. H is right, but Mr. H isn't right. Here's what I mean. Trump is something different in that he is a neocon at times. He is whatever he needs to be. As Mark Sleboda likes to say it, he's a chaos bomb. He's unpredictable. He doesn't know what to do from one day to the next. And he's very braggadocious, but as soon as he gets smoked up a little bit, as soon as he gets a foot in his behind, he gets jumpy. So let's start with something that I think is very important and that we got to get to. All right, let's start. And this is what Reuters is reporting. I think people need to think about this and talk about this. So the war is in its second day. Day one, Israel punches. Before I get into this, Trump says war in Israel should end in day two. We're going to talk about that in a second, but let me say this. Day one, and this is, I understand people are very, very emotional, but day one, Israel does its thing, right? Boom, sucker punches Iran, gets his sucker punch in, and pretty much we hear from many people, that's it. Iran's done. They're toast. Israel has knocked them out. Are they reaching for the white flags? Can they possibly recover from this? Oh my gosh. And again, I talk about this a lot because I try to avoid it. Emotions, the emotional growth, they're down. Oh, Iran's done. They're finished. It's over. They're screwed. They're obliterated. They've been decapitated, right? That emotional roller coaster, the online emotional roller coaster, you're familiar with it. Then what happens next? Iran comes back. They smack the hell out of Israel. Let's just say, as Andrei Martyanov, go over there when you get a chance to smooth the X12 and watch his video where he called it a miscalculation. And he talks about, this is what Andrei says all the time. These people don't understand real war. They don't understand strategy. This was a tactic. We'll punch Israel. We'll punch Iran, and then this will happen, right? I'm going to hit you, and then I'm going to predict the outcome in war, which shows they have no idea what they're doing. But they come out and they do their thing. Okay, we've misled them. We lied to them. We hoodwinked and bamboozled them, right? They hoodwinked and bamboozled them. They got Iran looking the other way. Boom, they got in a punch. And of course, online, in the chat, everywhere, there's weeping and gnashing of teeth, and there's a complete emotional collapse. Oh, it's over for Iran. How could they have not seen this? They're done. They're finished. They're over, right? But they won a war. That would have been like, predicting how the war would go on day one in any war. Yeah, you never know. And um, day 2, by the end of day 1, things were not looking so well. Iran got their feet. The big thing was this on day 1. This is the big thing. Israel got a blindside punch in. And if we always talk about in a fight that can happen, you're not always going to be prepared. Somebody can steal you, sucker punch you, whatever you want to call it. You can be walking down and you're not looking and somebody gets a punch and bop, and you get dazed and disoriented, right? Well, the bottom line is, in that kind of a fight, if you feel that you have to defend yourself by striking first, when you daze and disorient somebody, you got to take them out. Flurry and don't stop until they. Well, Israel dazed and disoriented. They dazed them, not necessarily disoriented them. They dazed them. They took some people out. Iran, and many people said that Iran has been preparing for this for decades. So even though they got a punch to the head and they got dazed a little bit, they've been planning for this. They were ready for decapitation strike. I would argue that Iran was likely ready for a full decapitation strike, that even if everybody died, they had a secondary plan. In fact, Alistair Crook talked about that. I've talked about it in other videos, right? Bottom line is, they got Iran dazed on day 1 early. It seemed to me that lasted, maybe it took, and this, again, you got to give Iran credit, right? You got to give Iran credit. They got attacked. They got blindsided. They got hoodwinked by fake negotiations. Okay, fair enough. You know what? I'll give you credit, U.S. and Iran. You were treacherous. You were unscrupulous. You were lied. Most of the world wouldn't think that you would be that unscrupulous, but now everybody knows, so that's a good thing. Everybody knows what they're dealing with now. And that allowed them to get a sucker punch in on Iran. Within 8 to 10 hours, Iran had reconstituted its military leadership. They had renamed who was going to be in charge. And they're naming 1 or 2, but it appears to me the other thing that Iran, wisely so, is not saying everybody who's going to be in charge now, because that gives Israel more of an opportunity to attack them. I'm sure they're in bunkers. I'm sure they're in remote locations doing their command centers, etc., doing their work. Whatever the case may be, as we've talked about, if somebody attacks you, there's an old saying in self-defense: punch your way out of it, right? Some guy gets you and you attack with 2 guys, and you're the inclination of a person, if you're getting punched or attacked, it's to block, it's to go into a cocoon, it's to do this kind of stuff and fall, and just that ain't gonna do you no good, because they're going to attack. The saying is, punch your way out of it. What is that? If you get attacked, and then remember this, if you ever get attack back, you have to immediately counterattack as soon as you can. If you get dazed or whatever, it should be automatic in your head that punches, kicks, anything are coming out. It's got to be automatic. As Bruce Lee said, I don't punch, the punch jumps out by itself. I don't kick, the kick jumps out by itself. If you're so mentally prepared and somebody attacks you, even if you're hit and you're dazed, punches or something's coming out, counterattack is coming out, that's the only way to get somebody off you, is to, as they say, punch your way out of it, get out of it, right? So what does Iran do? They get dazed, and what do? They immediately punch their way out of it. That's what they did. They immediately said, okay, you got me, got some air. What are we going to do? Get our air defense system up. What are you going to do? We'll get the next guy in charge. What are you going to do? Get straight. All right, everybody ready? Yeah, we got our feet. Yeah, we got to throw some punches back. So what do? They start throwing drones. If you remember, one of the things that happened, and this is a telltale sign of what Iran was doing, and the fact that they were exercising that punch your way out of it philosophy. What did we hear? Immediately, the strength is in their missiles and all that kind of stuff, right? But what happened very, very, very soon? What's the first thing Iran did? We got reports all over the place. We got pictures from Iraq that there was a bunch of Shahed drones, and that's their small, slow-flying drones, right? But there was like 100 of them fired, right? And people were like, 100 drones? That's the best you can do? That's all you got? Come on, Iran. And then people start saying Iran has been devastated. All they was able to fire is 100 Shahed drones. It shows me they're smart. Because what did they say? We're getting hit, we're getting bombed. What do? We got to punch our way out of it. Do we have anything we can get in the air at Israel? Well, our guys say they can get some drones in the air. Get them in the air at Israel right now. Put Israel in the defense, right? That's what I would do. Isn't that what you would do? You're kind of, Israel is attacking you with impunity. What do? You have to make them get on their back feet. They got to see something coming at them, even if they sit down. They got to start saying, "Uh-oh, the drones are coming. I guess that means there's missiles behind it. Uh-oh, get on you got to put them on the defense." So what did Iran do quickly? 100 Shahed drones. And you can say that ain't much, but it was something. It was a punch. Boom. They get Israel on their back feet. While those drones are in the air, now they start throwing Shahed drones up. Get another 100 in the air. Get another. So they start throwing drones in there. They're getting shot down. A few of them are hitting. Doesn't matter. The idea is now they got Israel a little bit on their back feet. They get everything together. Throw some missiles at Israel. Hit these targets. Wham. They got two things immediately that was very critical. Number one, they hit some targets in Israel, which means now Israel has to be concerned. They have to defend themselves from real missile attacks. Three things they did. Two, they got the Israeli people and the Western public relations machine on its back feet a little bit. It's like, we shut them down. Iran won't be even able to fire a single drone. A bunch of missiles can boom, 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 boom. People are looking, there's some destruction. Wait a minute, maybe the Iranians can do some destruction. They did some real destruction. That gets on TV, that gets online everywhere. And now they have for lack of a better term, a little bit of a PR victory and some hits. Meanwhile, their people, right? The Iranian people are sitting there saying, "Oh my gosh, things are looking bleak for us." The Iranian people get their hold up their head a little bit more, and the government of Iran gets to say, "See, we told you we weren't weak, and hey, we're in the fight." So now the Iranian people get to say, "Yes, we got some hits. We're in the fight." You see people in the street in Beirut all over watching the missiles go over, celebrating, dancing. The people in Gaza celebrating, dance. You see people saying, "Yes, Iran is getting some punches in." That was critical for them to do. From I hate to use this term, PR perspective, it was critical that they get that in. So they get that in. They get some punching in right now. So we're still in day one. We're still in day one. Israel has shot their wad. Israel has got their big punch in. They thought they had Iran down. Iran gets up off the mat. Boom. They punch their way out of that attack. Very, very wise. Great defensive strategy. I always say the best defense is a good offense. You know that. If somebody attacks you, punch your way out of it. Attack, attack, attack as quickly as you can and as consistently as you can. That's the only way you'll stop somebody from attacking you, is to counterattack. Anyway, let's continue. So that's day one. Day one, the Zionists and the neocons go from hooray, full celebration, to this is going to be a little tougher than we thought. Now day two comes, and Iran has really gotten on their feet. In Iran, they've got some air defenses are getting back up. Apparently, it appears that they've shot down some F-35s. They may or may not have a pilot. Those things I'm still working on to figure. That's what we're hearing on the net. So now they've gotten more victories. Shot down F-35s. The F-35 is supposed to be this great, wonderful, outstanding, the best and most expensive jet in the world. And it's getting, some of them are getting shot down. Okay. Now what happens day two? So the Israelis are like, okay, they got in a couple of hits. And we're seeing video more and more and more. Now what happens? Israel apparently hits some infrastructure, and Iran says, okay, two can play at that game. So the port of Haifa, apparently there's some big refinery. Apparently Iran says, because now, here's important. I talked about this time and again with Andrei Martyanov. And that is that the Western air defense, the American air defense, which is essentially, let's face it, they just say made in Israel. It's kind of like one of these Hermes bags or something where they make it for $40 in China and they ship it over to, Italy, and they stamp a made in Italy sign on it and sell it for 40,000, right? The David Sling, Iron Dome, blah, blah, blah. These are Lockheed Martin. These are General Dynamics. These are whatever. They're made in Raytheon, and they take them over there and they give them some Old Testament biblical name. And then they say it was made in Israel. And guess what? I don't care where it was made. It ain't doing so well. I'm not, no, let me put it a different way. It may be doing great. We're seeing them take some down, but The system's being overwhelmed. The Iranians learned a lot about it in their True Promise 1 and 2, and they are definitely having success. And the proof is in the pudding. Now, apparently, let's look at this. I think we got a. Let's look at something right here that I think we can learn from. Let's look at some of the video that's out there. I'm not vouching for that video. I'm not saying that this video is right, wrong, or indifferent, but let's look at the video kind of things we're seeing. This is an attack on Haifa, and so the port of Haifa, and or some kind of refinery or something. It looks like the Iranians are starting to use some hypersonic missiles, and you'll kind of get an idea of what it looks like. Look at this, wham! You see missiles coming down everywhere, but you see that, look at that again, and boom, there's no place for that. All the David slings, all of that kind of stuff in the world ain't going to do you no good when those kinds of missiles that reach those kinds of speeds are coming in. Let me see if I can find something else. There's a couple other ones that I think are of consequence. There are a couple more. Yeah, here's one that I think is should be watched. All right, let's go here. We're looking at another video. This is the Haifa attack. All right, let's look at this. We see a missile coming down. Missile. Now look at this explosion. This is a big missile. That is going to leave a mark, as they say. That is going to leave a mark. So we see that irrespective of the touting of great defensive capabilities of Israel, air defense, Iron Dome. And by the way, Trump's going to build a Golden Dome, which I'm sure will work just as well as the Iron Dome from the looks of things. The Golden Dome. Think about this. He just put $25 billion out for the Golden Dome. Israel has an Iron Dome, and we want a Golden Dome. You know, we'll get the same thing. We'll get some kind of a boondoggle debacle. I mean, think about this. Trump comes in, oh, we got to save money. We got to fire employees. We got to cut this, cut that, on and on and on. And then, why? Well, we got to do the Golden Dome. And look how well it works. It's friggin' Swiss cheese. It is Swiss cheese. The Iranians are going through that Golden Dome like a hot knife through butter. And Trump said, Trump's Golden Dome. A dome. I thought a dome was supposed to stop things from going through. That's more like a mosquito net, right? But whatever. Hey, look, the intent, you all know the game. The intent is to spend $25 billion. It's a money laundering. You know what they ought to call it? The money laundering dome. That's what it is, Trump's money laundering dome. Okay, so on we go. If we look at, I think, what's happening there, we can look at the handiwork. One more I'll show, and then we'll continue. We look at the handiwork of what's going on. We see that that Israel is starting to turn to rubble. Israel. See, the thing about Israel is this: it's small. It's not big like Iran. And so Iran, you know, though they can hit Iran, yeah, sure, and they can do some damage, but Israel's not that big. And if you get 30 days of this, yeah, Iran will have some hits and what have you. 30 days of this, and I don't know how much Israel will even be left, right? How can they wage war? It seems to me that Iran is hitting their military bases and their air bases. 30 days of this is there. First of all, Israel's military infrastructure will be no longer around. Iran will eliminate their military infrastructure. Iran will eliminate their air bases and their military bases. 30 days of this, there will not be a trace of any of that stuff, right? And what we've got is this. Iran is, seems to me they're acting within the limits of international law. Israel's placing stuff in civilian areas. So, I mean, if you put it in a civilian area, they got a right to target it, right? I mean, you did it, so now that's what's going to happen. So, yes, Iran's taking some hits, but it seems to me that you're a lot smaller, Israel. And if the hits are equal, let's just say they're equal, 30 days of it, you got a country of 90 million versus a country of 10 million, a country God knows how many times larger Iran is. So yes, it's a war, and yes, Iran's going to take punches. But when and if whatever the war is over, I tell you this much: you don't think Russia and China will come in and help Iran rebuild? And guess who's going to have to rebuild Israel? Any guesses? The United States. That there'll be another 100 billion. Let me tell you something. You think they spent 300 billion? Trump spent it. Trump. Yes, the Biden administration spent 300 billion. We've got to get that back on Ukraine. They've wasted all this money in Ukraine. Who the hell's going to rebuild Israel? We are. And you think they're going to, so you think they spent 300 billion on Ukraine so far, and Trump's still spending money on Ukraine. That ain't nothing. Think about it. Israel, apparently some gas platforms blown up. They got refineries blown up already. They got ports blown up already. Who's going to build all that infrastructure? You know what? Who needs refineries? Who needs ports? Who needs infrastructure? Who's screaming, we need ports and infrastructure? Wait, why China's got 1 million ports? Russia's, everybody's building ports. Iran's was building some new port with India. I think go on and on and on. And India apparently is invested in the port of Haifa. Not necessarily a good investment, but whatever the case may be. Guess what? That stuff in Israel is going to be all blown to hell. And guess who? What do you think Congress is going to do? You think any party in Congress is going to say, well, the Israelis need 300, 400, 500 billion, $1 trillion. The Israelis, it's going to cost $1 trillion to rebuild Israel. Now, we ask for Medicare coverage for us. Can't afford it. We got to cut your Medicare coverage. We ask for food for the poor. Our infrastructure's falling apart. Who's going to pay for it? That's what we hear here. Hey, Americans are struggling. Who's going to pay for it? We don't have that kind of money. And what about Social Security? You know, people are barely making it. Perhaps we can have a 20% increase in Social Security. You got 70, 75-year-old people eating dog food. Can we help the old people? Nah, who's going to pay for that? We got to cut Social Security. And what the hell's going to happen? Israel's been smashed. There's no amount of money that we won't send to Israel. $1 trillion. Let's just take our whole budget. Let's just you know what they'll do? They'll sell our shit. They'll literally say, we got to sell all this stuff in the United States. Then they'll go around person by person. Hey, you know what we're going to do? We decided to raise your taxes by 25%. Why? So we can send all that money to Israel. Israel's going to be flattened, and they're going to look at you to pay, my dear and fluffy friend, and they will take your money whether you like it or not, and they will send it over there, and you will not get infrastructure. You will not get health care. You will not get decent schools. You won't get a damn thing. Sorry. That all goes to the Zionist project. Hello, Ukraine. Bad news for you. The Zionist project is going to be top dog, and you're going to be, as they say, use one of my dad's old longshoreman sayings, you'll be sucking hind tit to Israel, Ukraine. The neo-Nazis are finally going to find out, that their masters don't love them after all. Anyway, let's continue. So, to go on, it's been a day. Donald Trump came out. He was all teeth, dude. That dude was all teeth day one. After the first hit, I told you, Iran. He's cocky. We told Iran it's not going to be bad. They wouldn't listen. Ha, ha, ha. And we fooled them. Oh. Now, look, we tried to tell you you're screwed, Iran. Let's see what's happening now. Let's see. Wow, day two. Mr. Cocky man. I'm going to tell you, I tried to told you, Iran. Let's take a look at what we got here. Reuters. Trump says war in Israel, Iran should end. Oh, really? It should end. I thought, why didn't you think of that when you were starting it there, Mr. Cocky man? U.S. President Donald Trump said on Saturday, this war in Israel, Iran should end. It's only been going on a day. With his comments coming in a social media post on his call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Key quote. Yes, this is a key quote. The call between Trump and Putin lasted approximately 1 hour. He feels as I do, this war in Iran should end. To which I explained, his war should also end, Trump said on Truth Social. Yeah, and I'm sure Putin said, yeah, and I think they're both going the same way, old dude. Why it's important. Trump's comments marked the first time he has explicitly called for an end to hostilities. Really? It's only been going on 24 hours when he said that. It's going on like a day. Hey, the war's been going on a day. You were bleating about how wonderful it was, how you started it. It's all your war. You made it happen. And what do you think? One day later, Trump, perhaps in hindsight, we were a little hasty with starting this war in Iran. I talked to Putin. He wants it over. And I'm so happy. Iran launched its own retaliatory strikes against Israel, and hostilities has raised alarm in a region already on edge since the start of Israel's war on Gaza. So there we go. Trump said he and Putin mostly discussed the Middle East and spent much less time talking about Russia's war in Ukraine. Trump hinted at follow-up discussions on the war in Ukraine in the coming weeks and said in his post that he told Putin that the war in Ukraine should also end. Here's the thing about it. I have a feeling, I haven't found out who called who yet. I kind of get the feeling that Trump was the guy making the phone calls. I got a feeling that Trump called Putin. I got a feeling that Putin didn't call Trump, because who the hell's going to trust Trump, right, at this point? But I have a feeling that Donald Trump said, what's going on with the war? Well, we got good news and bad news. The good news is the Israelis got the first punch. Okay, what's the bad news? The Iranians threw a flurry afterwards, and they're still throwing flurries. So the Israelis are getting some punches, but man, the Iranians are throwing a lot of stuff at Israel, and Israel doesn't know how long they got before they run out of anti-aircraft missiles. See, the thing about it is this. I think and what the Iranians are thinking, and it's a simple strategy that I think, the Iranians actually had the opportunity in True Promise 1 and True Promise 2 to hone that strategy. And that strategy was simple. It was a strategy that was told to me like 2010 or 11 when I was at Fox News in New York, and I won't get into the story. I've told it a million times, so I don't want to go over and over again. But anyway, a guy who would know, the head of the National Physicists Association, was talking about why the Golden Dome, which was Star Wars at that time, wouldn't work. And it was simple. You just overwhelm the system. If you've got enough missiles, dummy missiles, drones, whatever, if an air defense system has a finite number of missiles, an air defense a system has a finite number of things that it can track, right? So if you got this radar here, it can track X number of objects at the same time. It can target at X number. It can respond to X number with missiles. The thing about it is this. Generally, an air defense system has to fire 2 to 1. And it has to do with mathematics, right? It works kind of like, very simple. If one missile's coming if I fire one missile, I have a 40% chance of hitting it. If I fire 2, most likely it could be 80 or higher, right? So I greatly increase the probability that, air defense is about mathematics, right? Where's this missile's coming? The computer calculates where it's going to be at a given time, fires 2 missiles, and those have a chance, and it may say, okay, let's go 1 here and 1 there, or whatever. Okay, but it's 2 to 1, which means it takes me half as many missiles to exhaust your missile supply as if I'm on offense. If I'm sending missiles, I fire 1,000 missiles, you got to fire 2,000 anti-aircraft missiles. But what happens if I'm firing drones at the same time? So you got to deal with the drones, you got to deal with the missiles, maybe even small little teeny drones like the Shaheeds, etc. So, and might I add, here's the other part that you need to know, that NATO is involved. And what I mean is this: they're French, they're Italian, they're British, they're American ships and bases and air defense systems all over the place. There's Western air defense systems and ships and all over the place trying to stop these missiles before they get to Israel, trying to stop these drones before they get to Israel, which means in the same way that the Russians were demilitarizing NATO with the Ukraine conflict, now Iran is demilitarizing NATO, Okay, so NATO is being demilitarized on two fronts now. And as you probably know, and if you've been paying attention, in modern warfare, if you don't have air defense, you're in deep and serious trouble. That's what it's all about, and particularly air defense against missiles and drones. So what do we have now? Israel is doing, for the most part, air to ground missiles, right? So Israel has the plane that comes in, it fires whatever, it has one or two missiles, it comes towards Iran, it fires a couple missiles, it turns around. They're not really doing like bombing because they'd have to fly over all the things and it's too dangerous. They lose a lot of planes. They're flying outside, a lot of being fired from Iraqi airspace, some inside Iran where they can, but it's very dangerous. They're losing planes. They're coming in air to ground, fires a missile off the plane, the missile comes in and strikes its target or doesn't, or gets shot down. Iran is firing from the ground. They're surface to surface. Air to surface, Israel, which means it's much more complicated. You have to fly a plane over there. The plane has to be supplied with fuel by these aerial tankers. What are they, KC-130s or something? Okay, think about how complicated. You got to take off. You got to boom. You got to fire your missile. You've got to be resupplied with fuel, and then you fly back. So this is all of these missiles. Iran, they take out of a launcher, which means Iran fires a lot more missiles, a lot more easily, a lot more economically, etc. And then you move your missile launcher, and then you boom more, right? That's what they're doing. And even then, does Israel want to attack the missile launchers? Sure, but it gets difficult now because they're going to fly planes in, and these launchers constantly move, and drones constantly move. And Israel has planned this. And let's face it, they couldn't stop the Houthis. The Houthis are firing at them right now. They can't stop the Houthis. So the reality is Iran can likely continue this for a long, long time. Long time. And Israel's small, and if this continues for a week or two, I think, I don't see how Israel's infrastructure survives in a week or two. Iran keeps upping the ante because they're hitting and they're saying, all right, we're at 200 or 300 missiles. And then Iran may say, we've got 1,000 missiles or 2,000 missiles we're preparing. The other part of it is this, and this is critical too, something to think about. So Israel's going to, your plane takes off, your plane heads to Iran, does its dirty work, comes back and lands. But where is it taking off and landing from? Because one of the things that's happening now is Iranian missiles, we've seen this, are hitting Israeli military bases, which means Israeli airfields, military airfields, etc. Right? So how long is Israel going to have any place to even take off from? What happens when your military bases are constantly struck? Where are you going to take off from? And how much damage is done to your Air Force? How many planes are you going to have left if your military bases are getting the hell slapped out of them by these hypersonic missiles and drones and missiles and missiles and drones? Oh my. How long are you going to have the military infrastructure to carry out these attacks on Iran? So Israel being small, yes, the U.S. can continue, but at this point, the Israelis are screaming for the U.S. to get involved. Screaming, you got to get involved. Why are they screaming for them to get involved? Because they're getting their butts stomped pretty good. And I'm not going to say the Israelis are losing in that they're firing stuff against Iran and Iran's firing stuff at them. Let's just say the Israelis have an advantage, or let's just say it's even, right? Even Steven, okay? If it's even, they're smaller. Like, let's say they're 20 times smaller than Iran, which might not be an exaggeration, 20 times smaller. That means that they'll be smashed to pieces in 20 times fewer amount of time. If it's even Steven, but I don't think it's even Steven. I think when you're firing from ground launchers, I think that the truth is that it's a lot more economical in every way, shape, and form for Iran to fire, so they can fire more missiles longer. And here's the other part of it too, and this is critical. Iran has planned for nuclear attacks. Iran has planned for U.S. attacks, the full U.S. empire attack. So Iran's whole plan was, we got to hide this stuff. so that if we get a sneak attack, even a sneak nuclear attack, that we still have the capacity to respond. So Iran for decades have been planning on being in a weak position, have been planning on how can they launch their missiles, even if there's a decapitation strike, even if whatever happens, we need to. So the Iranians have gone out of their way to hide their stuff, to bury it deep underground, to defend it, to put it in, to be able to create tactics so that even under intense fire, missile fire, whatever, they could still respond. That's their game plan. We want to be able to respond under fire. The Israelis did something different. They said, we're going to do the Golden Dome and David Sling so we don't have to bury our stuff deep underground. We ain't got to do that because we're going to have a robust air defense system. Well, here's the problem. I don't care what happens. If you bury it under a mountain, the mountain's still there. You can miscalculate. Perhaps we should have had more missiles. Perhaps we should have had less. Perhaps we should have fired them in the morning, in the evening. Whatever the case, you can miscalculate. But you still got the stuff because it's buried under freaking mountains all over the mountains of Iran. So you're still going to be able to respond. Now that the Golden Dome, the Iron Dome or whatever is proven to be Swiss cheese, you miscalculated. There ain't no way to fix that. You built these bases out in the open based on a strategy that said, I can defend these bases with a robust air defense system. But if your robust air defense system doesn't work, your bases are done. And it appears to me that's what we're looking at. It looks like the air defense system didn't work, and that therefore their bases are done. Their bases are fried. Their bases are finished. So now what we're looking at is a situation where within 2 days in, I think Trump's crying uncle. I think Trump's calling Putin, saying, help! Isn't that, I think of the irony here. Think of the irony. Day 2, roughly 2 weeks ago, the CIA and MI6, and from what we're hearing also the Mossad, roughly 2 weeks ago, crowed. Ha, 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 ha. We built these bases inside of Russia and we attacked Russia's part of Russia's strategic triad. Ha, 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 ha. Ooh, we blew up trains in Russia. And meanwhile, what was Trump doing? He was negotiating. He was at the table. Oh, I'm negotiating. I'm talking with Russia. I want a deal. Russia was talking with him. I think Russia knew what was what. But he's like, look over here, Russia. Look over here. Let's get a deal. Let's get a deal. Wham! I didn't know anything. Ooh, right? So 2 weeks ago, Trump does what? They're building drone bases inside of Russia so they can launch a sneak attack on Russia. Okay? Fair enough. You got that done. 2 weeks later, you're doing fake negotiations with Iran so you can build a drone base in Iran and you can launch a sneak attack on Iran. You hit Iran and what? Ha, 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 ha. We fooled them and hit them. The exact same thing. So the Russians are sitting there going, okay, we're doing our thing, but we see what time it is. And after doing the exact same thing to Iran and to Russia, when Russia begged you, please don't attack Iran. We'll do what we want. Well, you can't stop us from attacking Iran. We attacked Iran. And Trump has the balls to call Putin. Help. Can you get me out of this mess? While I guarantee that Trump does not want, that Putin doesn't want more war. You can look at this and say, I'm sure Putin doesn't want it, but there is a benefit to BRICS so far. And the benefit is the U.S. is getting weaker and the U.S. is getting demilitarized and the U.S. is getting politically less stable, right? So now you got Trump in a big jam. He's calling Putin, asking for help. And I'm sure Putin would say, well, I may help you out, but you have to get the hell out of Ukraine, buddy. What about this? Oh, ha, ha, ha. Oh, I didn't know anything about the attack on the strategic bombers or the blowing up of civilian trains. Huh? Perhaps I could help you out, but it's going to cost you. And by the way, the Iranians don't work for me. You need to talk to them. I don't, that's an independent sovereign country. I can talk to them for you, but I think you're not in a good position. So the bottom line is this: 2 days into the war, Trump's starting to get cold feet. Look, as me and other people have said, Trump is a neocon, but he's different from the neocons because he has a reverse gear, right? So right now, Trump has got his hand on that shifter, and he's like pulling it, trying to get it in reverse. And the neocons got their hands and they're pulling it in the other way. And Trump is like, oh God, I screwed up in a bad kind of way. And here's the thing about it. The thing that the neocons want, and yes, Trump's a neocon, but a different kind, a different brand, a different flavor of neocon. They want him to double down. They're like, okay, now we got to send troops in and attack. And Trump knows what that means. The Iranians have made it clear what that means. The Iranians have said, we're considering closing the Straits of Hormuz, right? That doesn't mean we're going to close it. They're telling the United States, if you get involved, we're closing the Straits of Hormuz. They said, we're targeting U.S. bases and we're going to hold them responsible. That doesn't mean we're attacking U.S. bases now, but that means if you get involved, and they said they'll raise U.S. bases. In other words, if you get involved, you might want to take a look at what's going on in Israel. You might want to go on X and Telegram and take a look at those hypersonic missiles streaking across the sky. You might want to look at these Israelis running around with their head like cartoon characters with both hands up in the air all over Tel Aviv and Haifa, saying, holy sweet mother of God, what in the hell's happening to us, right? You might want to look at those. Because if you come after us, you can do it. There's going to be great pain. And by the way, we're getting our air defense system up now. We're shooting down a couple planes. Are that what you're going to do? Are you going to come in with some planes? Do you want some of this? It's not that the U.S. can't do great damage, but that it's clear, might I add. Meanwhile, a lot of MAGA people are screaming, Trump, don't you do it. Don't, Tucker Carlson, Trump, don't you do it. And MAGA people are screaming, don't you do it. The anti-Zionist part of MAGA, which is a part of MAGA, is like not happy with Trump. They're starting to reject Trump and they're saying, you bastard, you better not do this. So if Trump does it, politically, he's in deep and serious trouble. He's in deep trouble right now because this is Trump's war. We don't want to hear if I was in office, this would have never happened in Ukraine. Yeah, well, you're in office and this happened in Iran. You did it, and you went around bragging that you did it, that you were a part of it. You knew about that. You were part of lies and deception to make it happen. This is all yours, Trump. Here's what's happening. Here's what Trump just guaranteed himself: a second catastrophic loss. Right now, it's a loss. I don't see. My dad used to have an old saying: even sometimes, even when you win, you lose. Right? Let's say Trump goes in. Let's say Trump says, all right, we're going in and we're bombing everything in Iran. And they go in and they bomb. Well, they're going to take some hits, some bad ones. God only knows how bad, but they're going to take some hits, real bad hits. Bases are going to get flattened. The U.S. will probably effectively get ejected from the region for this reason. Iran will say, well, that's right. You can do this. You have to rebuild every base in the region because we're going to put as many missiles as we can on every base we can. We're going to make sure that your bases in the region are in deep and serious, rubble, right? So if Trump does it and his bases in the region get flattened, that's his. Oh, by the way, American soldiers killed. That's Trump's. Those are Trump's. Oh, by the way, Straits of Hormuz closes. Price of oil goes through the roof. And all of the people who said, don't do it, Trump, are like, what the hell are we paying for gas now? And the economy. So now you got a bunch of people that said, don't do it. If you do it, it will be calamity. And he does it anyway. And there is calamity. It for Trump. I don't know how his presidency is going to go from now anyway. Things ain't looking good for him. But this is the U.S. empire. What does anybody think that if we'd have put Kamala Harris in, that things would have gone so much better? No, things are going bad. It ain't going to get better. And it's the collapse of an empire. You're watching an empire collapse, and this is kind of how it works. You feel good. You got a front row seat. Imagine if you were in Rome and you got a front row seat to the collapse of Rome. Well, you're in the U.S. and you got a front row seat to the collapse of the Golden Dome, right? So that's where we are. Trump has guaranteed the United States, I think to some extent, two catastrophic losses. There was a lot of things going out that said Iran is preparing to test a nuclear weapon. I think that came out from Iran. And now, this is just speculation. I'm going to give you some. One guy said, I hope this is not an hour of nauseating speculation. I ain't going to do a full hour. But why wouldn't we do nauseating assumptions? That's what he called them. Why wouldn't we do nauseating assumptions? This is alternative media. Anyway, let me continue. I think it was Iran. I think it was Iran saying, we're about to do a nuclear test, weapons test. I don't think they are. But I think the message was, we can. I think the message was, you don't even want to think about going nuclear. Because if you decide to throw a nuclear weapon at us, if you threaten, if you say, we'll throw a nuclear weapon, we're considering nuclear weapons, then Iran's probably going to test a nuclear weapon immediately. Iran's going to make it clear, if you do, you'll get nuked. That's going to be, I think, the name to Israel. If you nuke us, we didn't want to do this. We didn't want to go here. But now that you've done this, if you nuke us, you'll get nuked. I think the other thing that's coming out of this is, this was the whole business of, we're going to stop Iran's nuclear weapons program. Number one, from what I'm understanding, they hit some surface things, but this stuff is, as was predicted, it's so far underground that they can't do it. Now, if your goal is regime change, if your goal is attacking their civilian nuclear program that you've said is a nuclear weapons program, that may or may not be, I'm not going to take a position. My point is, if that's your plan of doing that, and you don't do anything about stop their nuclear program, which you probably won't, and you don't, what's the other term? The other thing, you don't get regime change, which was the other plan. So your plan was regime change and stop their nuclear program. Well, don't look like you can get the nuclear program. Looks like you've hit a lot of stuff, but their stuff is underground. So ultimately, nah, that ain't going to work. Regime change. Let me show you something. If you think you're going to get regime change, let me show you another video from Iran. I'm going to find it. Let me show you one. Let me show you, think that the Iranian people are going to rise up against. This is from Iran. This is in Tehran last night. And apparently these were people apparently who were celebrating the strikes on Israel. They don't look like they're ready to rise up and overthrow the government. Now, many of us, me and lots of other experts alike, said, look, not a good move, because if you attack a country rather than regime change, the country comes together. They went after Russia. Oh, we'll go upset the people of Russia with all of these sanctions. They'll turn against Putin, and then Putin's done, right? Well, how's that worked out? Just the opposite, right? Now, oh, we'll hit Iran, and those darn Iranians and then their people will all come together. I'm going to guarantee you this. I'm going to guarantee you there was a regime change plan here, that there was a plan that said, number one, we'll launch a decapitation strike. Number two, we got a government to put right in, and we'll get this going, and we'll put a government in, and we'll do regime change. I'll guarantee there was a plan that, of course, flopped. But the people of Iran, you struck them. You killed some of their people. You blew up some of their stuff. What do you think? They're going to hug you for it? As you do a genocide? No. So what we're seeing now is the people from Iran, as was absolutely predicted, are rising up in defiance against the U.S. empire. So you got the opposite of regime change. You're going to support their government. A lot of people around the world who are pissed at Israel, when they hear Israel starting to look like Gaza, there are people around the world who are cheering for that, who are saying that is justice, who are looking at Iran, who are looking at the Houthis and saying, you're serving, you're doing God's work. You're serving justice. There's people around the world all over the place that believe that are cheering on the rubbleizing of Israel. And they're looking at Israel and they're saying, what they're saying. You're reading this stuff on X and on Telegram, which I'm on Telegram. You're reading this stuff. And this stuff says, people are like, now you're getting it. Now it's your turn, blah, 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 blah. And now justice is being served and what have you. So Iran has the support people all over the world, and a lot in the United States, a lot of them in the United States. And Trump is pissing people off. And if Donald Trump gets involved, which could happen, I don't know. Number one, in the same way that in the same way that how can we put this? In the same way that Israel underestimated Iran's military potential, in the same way that they underestimated the capacity of Iran to strike targets that are defended by U.S. air defense systems with their various missiles. I think the U.S. would be underestimating that too. They would be underestimating Iran's resolve. Look, man, don't push a man into a corner. If Iran, here's the problem. Never push a person into a corner. You don't want to fight a man who's pushed into a corner, right? So what happens if Israel and Iran join, and the U.S. join in, both of them, and they push Iran into a corner and say, we're coming at you with everything we want, we're going to destroy you. At that point, you push the man into a corner. He has no choice but to fight with everything he has. That means the Straits of Hormuz will be closed. That means every base in the it will be attacked. And the likelihood is we'll start seeing the oil infrastructure in the Middle East destroyed. If you pushed Iran into a corner where they're facing the U.S. and Israel potentially destroying them, the other part is, what will Russia and China do at that point? I think it's quite possible that China will say, you know, Taiwan, you've been getting on our nerves for quite a while. And the U.S. is involved in some gigantic war over there, aren't they? And they're getting weaker and weaker, and they got to send all their assets over there. Hi, how you doing? How's things going in Taipei? I think we'll surround Taiwan, and I think we'll say, it's time, Taiwan. You're coming home. Now, if you want to fight a country of 1.4 million and you got 25 million people in Taiwan, you want to do that, we can do this. I would advise against it. U.S., you're over there fighting Iran. You're over there fighting Russia. We're getting ready to take Taiwan. What you going to do? You want the trifecta? You want to hit the trifecta? You want to fight all three of us? It's up to you. Oh, there's imminent war with China, but we will fight them and defeat them, right, Peter Exet? You over there getting your bases smashed. You got Oreshniks waiting to fly at you in Ukraine, and your Ukrainian Nazis are running out of everything. What a perfect time for Taiwan. That's all I'm trying to say. If things kick off, I suspect. Look, come on. You know the Chinese know that they're building damn drone bases for a sneak attack in China. That crap ain't gonna work no more. Why? What do you think the Chinese? And I'll say this: Chinese got to, at this point, they got to cut the U.S. off from magnets. It's getting to a point, the magnets and the rare earths, Chinese have got to, at some point, and I think we're getting to that point, just say to the U.S., look, we ain't negotiating those anymore. We see your game plan. And the only way we can really stop you from building up your military potential to attack us, which you're sure to do, is to sell you this stuff. We ain't selling it to you. Yes, your cars are going to, industry is going to shut down. That's going to weaken you, but you want to attack us, so we want to weaken you. Yes, it's going to hurt a whole lot of your industry. Fair enough. But we want to hurt a whole lot of your industry. We want to hurt you bad because you're a real threat to us. You're a threat to our allies. You're a threat to BRICS. You're a threat to the world, and we got to weaken you. So that's where we are. We are in day 2. Israel's getting mauled. I'll say that again, mauled. And the issue is not what's happening on day 2. It's can Iran continue to hit Israel day after day after day at this level? I suspect they can. And Iran's saying, well, we'll stop when you stop. But look, what is Israel and the U.S. going to do? Let's go talk to the IAEA and we'll make a deal. Do you think Iran's going to be, no, we're not talking to the IAEA. No, we're not doing inspections with the IAEA. No, we're not allowing them in our country anymore. We're not sitting at the table with them anymore. They helped facilitate attack on us. You keep your damn IAEA. Now, Trump wanted a better deal. He'll get no deal. The only deal he'll get is a deal that calls off the dogs. That's all. But he find a way to call off the dogs. I think it's if this kid, I just don't think Israel. They don't have the infrastructure, I don't believe, to continue this. And the people of Israel are going to be like, oh my God, they turned us into Ukraine. Yeah, they really have. You always were. You always were potential cannon fodder. So that's where we are. I want to thank everybody for coming on. That's all I got for today. Day to day, we'll continue to, as best we can, watch what's going on. I'll continue to report on it. I was just watching Dialogue Works with Professor Mirande, who's basically telling it like it is. What was it? James Baldwin, who said the worst thing a society can create is a man who has nothing to lose. That's what they've created in Iran. They got nothing to lose. And I do believe, I don't know how long this conflict goes on, but it is a catastrophic loss for Israel. It is a catastrophic loss for the U.S. And Iran is going to put Israel in a position, I think, where they're not going to be able to prosecute wars because all their bases are going to be flat. Iran is, bit by bit, they're wiping out Israel's military-industrial complex. They're wiping out their bases. They're wiping out their industry. I think they're going to darken. If Israel really starts going after power plants, they're going to darken Israel. They only got 5 or 6 decent power plants. They won't blow the nuclear one, I don't think, in Desdemona, something like that. They won't darken that one unless Israel launches that kind of attack against them, some kind of nuclear attack against them. Then that base is going to be blown and it's going to melt down. And Israel's small. If they get a meltdown, then that's pretty much it for Israel. It's pretty much the country of Chernobyl at that point, realistically. So it would be suicide for Israel. So we'll see. Right now, Iran's, I believe, in the driver's seat simply because they had a pretty good idea that they were against a powerful enemy. Israel and the U.S. did the worst possible thing you can do. The first rule of conflict is never underestimate your adversary. They violated the first rule of conflict, and now there's a deep and serious price to pay. And now the world is starting to look at Israel, saying, now it kind of looks like Gaza. You're starting to kind of look like Gaza. And if this goes on, you did this, Israel. This was a matter of time. So let's see what happens. Keep an eye out on it. And everybody, please, as I always say, share this on all your social media platforms if you can. Follow me on Rumble and Rockfin and Patreon, of course. And if you can do the buy me a coffee, that's great. Cash App, PayPal, whatever, if you can afford it. And by the way, if you can't, don't worry about it. Just share this on all your social media platforms. Additionally, you see them a little P.O. box scrolling across the bottom. People send me letters. People send me donations. People send me books. People send me all kinds of great things. It doesn't matter. Whatever you can do, send it to me. If you just got something you want to say and you want me to read it, I got a file here. I read every one of them. Some of them I get a chance to respond to. So there's my P.O. box. Feel free to send me a letter. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you guys and girls and doing all the great stuff. Share this on all your social media platforms. I'm out.